As someone who burned the candle at both ends for about 35 years, I can confirm that for me, making the choice to slow down was the best thing I ever did. It's also when I started to look and feel the way I want to. It's also when life started to change for me. And so I think it's very easy to choose and be addicted to the feeling of achievement and never slowing down. And that sometimes feels good. Like sometimes when I go back into that way of operating, I'm reminded, oh, this is what this feels like. But choosing to slow down and nurture my nervous system and create space has been what's allowed me to actually quit my job, start a business, lose weight. It was really the prerequisite for me.
Welcome back to the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast, where we explore intentional living, finding calm in the chaos, and embracing life's rhythms. My listeners are mostly busy women navigating work, motherhood, and personal growth, people who are craving more presence, clarity, and joy. But today, we're also extending our reach out to the equally busy, high performing men out there as well, because the principles of well being apply to us all. And so, speaking of well being, I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce our very special guest today, all the way from Sydney, Australia, the incredible Chelsea McLeod. She is a health and wellness coach with a profound mission to help high performing individuals, especially women, but she does work with men as well, feel and look their absolute best. She's known for transforming lives by getting to the root causes of health issues, particularly focusing on hormone balance and gut health. Chelsea, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here with us today.
Thanks, Kendra. I'm so excited to be here.
Before we get into your story, do you have any thoughts on what it means to go slow for you?
As someone who burned the candle at both ends for about 35 years, I can confirm that for me, making the choice to slow down was the best thing I ever did. It's also when I started to look and feel the way I want to. It's also when life started to change for me. And so I think it's very easy to choose and be addicted to the feeling of achievement and never slowing down. And that sometimes feels good. Like sometimes when I go back into that way of operating, I'm reminded, oh, this is what this feels like. But choosing to slow down and nurture my nervous system and create space has been what's allowed me to actually quit my job, start a business, lose weight. It was really the prerequisite for me.
I hear you. I can't imagine what it's like being in the corporate world because I have an education background. In my experience, my life as an administrator in schools has been meetings, meetings, back to back meetings, and people are constantly at me. So, give us a little bit of an insight about what it's like to be in the corporate world and then what drove you to make that change.
Very similar to you. We've got the back to back meetings, we've got long commutes, we've got the pressure of, I worked at a publicly traded company. And so there was the pressure of financials. And I come from an e commerce background. So I was running digital businesses that had very aggressive growth targets because in 10 years of e commerce, it was that time where it was just starting to boom and it was the most highest growth channel. So there was naturally a lot of resource, a lot of pressure, a lot of really high targets on our backs. And so for me, from age 24 when I first entered into that career, it was constant overperformance, being available at all times of day, being on calls from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and trying to get work done in between and multitasking, and all the while trying to eat the right things and exercise and do all the things. And luckily, I did work in footwear. So I worked for Adidas and Reebok. And so that was nice because it had more of an athletic background and we had a gym at work. But, you know, life was work and work was life. And there wasn't a lot in between. And so I think for most, a lot of my clients are actually ex colleagues who come from the same background as me, who realize that I actually don't feel and look the way I want to as a result of how I'm operating right now. So they come to me when they want those cheat codes of how to really release weight and feel better at speed.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure they're looking at you and they see what a difference you've made in your life. And so they want to know more about what you're doing. And so that's so helpful that you're able to know what their life looks like and you know how to get them to the point where they're going to feel better about themselves and their life.
Totally. Because I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many nutritionists and personal trainers and health coaches out there that it's like you really have to find the one that's compatible with your lifestyle because anyone can tell you eat less and exercise more. But it's like, okay, how do I? Well, number one, it's way more nuanced than that, and it depends on your personality, it depends on your career, it depends on, are you a mom? Are you menopausal? Like, there's so many different ways to understand hormones that go beyond, like, the traditional advice from nutritionists. But what I do is I really look at the person as a whole. What does their life look like? What do their hormones look like? And how do we reverse engineer into a plan that's actually gonna help them get where they wanna go as fast as possible?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm talking to women in my world of education, and we're around kids all day, and so then when we get home, we have very little time for our own families and children, and I'm sure it's similar in the corporate world because you spend so much time doing, like, all this super interactive communication with adults. So then if you're going to have a family and live that corporate life, I just don't know how women are doing it without a breaking point like you and I have both experienced. So do you feel like there is such a thing as the work life balance? Do you believe it is possible?
If it's possible, but with the right systems and the right boundaries, right? Because so many women come to me and they're kind of like, well, I can't change my work. I can't change how many hours I'm working. And I'm like, yes, but you can say no to meetings after a certain time. You can block time off on your calendar. That is always an option. You can always schedule time for work. You can always move your body after meetings. Like, there's ways of operating within the structure you have. And some women come to the point where they implement all the protocols, but then they get themselves to a point where their brain is actually functioning. They don't have brain fog. They've released 15 pounds. And then they realize, oh, wait, this job is not at all in alignment with the person I am. And that's where they start to put out feelers of like, do you have to quit your job and break up with your boyfriend? Like, no, not necessarily. But once you are operating on a higher level and once your brain is actually functioning and you feel good in your body, it's a lot easier to see your life for what it is and start to make adjustments. So it's not uncommon for a woman I work with to get healthy, lose the weight, and then realize, huh, I wanna start a business, or like, I don't really enjoy what I'm doing, so I'm gonna go apply to this new role over here, and they just new possibilities open for them, and they just start sussing out other options.
You bring up a good point that once we start getting our health back and we can breathe a little bit and we feel better, we're looking better, then we can kind of pause and ask ourselves, is this really what I want? I've been here for a minute and it's kind of gotten me into a hole and I've gotten myself out and now I want something different. And that's totally fine. And in fact, I think more people are searching for something that's more meaningful and it's something that they want to spend their time doing every day. For
That's right.
sure. Are you finding more and more of your clients are switching professions?
It depends. I mean, there are some women who are very happy where they're at, and they're highly successful, they're making good money, and they stay right where they are. I have a whole subsection. I've worked with 250 women over the last year and a half, so that there's a big sample size, but there's a whole portion of them who are kind of on the brink of burnout in corporate, and this is what the prerequisite they needed to take to go out on their own. So I have a couple people who have quit jobs and started businesses, but I also have entrepreneurs who are able to accelerate their business and really expand their wealth potential and their energetic capacity after doing this work. So it kind of depends on the person. I've seen some women get divorced, I've seen some find partners. It's just really, it's amazing when you do this work and when you heal your hormones, you just become a different person and you get to build a whole new life on the other side of it.
So how did you start looking into the wellness path of healing yourself? Did you start working with a coach or did you start just taking courses or what was your first steps in that process?
I gathered bits and bobs myself because the reality is I was in chronic survival mode for over 10 years. I didn't look or feel good. I was never a person who was super overweight, but I also don't work with people who are super overweight necessarily. I'm not the right health coach for someone who wants to lose like 60 pounds, right? I work with women who they're already, they know they're eating a salad. They might be going to the gym. They may not be super consistent, or maybe they are. Some of them are, some of them aren't. But like, they just don't feel like themselves. Their clothes are a little bit tight. They're used to looking and feeling a little bit differently. And so that's kind of my niche, is helping people who are in a similar position to me. Like, I never blew out and gained 80 pounds, but what it did look like for me was I wasn't sleeping. I was sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. I was very grumpy. I was irritable. I was rude to my team at work, I was overeating and overexercising and in this loop of being completely not present in my life. And I just did, I was single for years. Like my dating life was not good because I wasn't present. So, like, how could a man ever be attracted to a woman who's not even present in her own body, And so I wanted a partner. I wanted to own a business. I wanted to wake up and feel real energy. And so I started looking for podcasts. I started talking to doctors and naturopaths. I started going on this journey of trying to find answers, and I had to gather from so many different places. And eventually I wasn't seeking out a health coach by any means. Like I wasn't Googling like health coach near me, but I was having breakouts on my skin. And I went to see a holistic skin specialist named Kat, who's now, she's the one who like helped me really turn this corner. And she got me on supplements. We talked about my hormones. We talked about my lifestyle. She was asking me questions that a doctor never had. And, I had I was type 2 pre-diabetic, like, which made no sense because I was a athlete, I was teaching spin classes. It's like, how is this, typically diabetes are like overweight people, but it was because my nervous system was so dysregulated. And so she really started to work on my nutrition, my supplements, my lifestyle, and that's where I started to release weight. That's where my skin started to glow. That's where I just started to feel totally different, started sleeping through the night. And that's where I was like, there is something here because I'm not alone in this, like, so many women are having the same problem. So I went back to school to become a practitioner so that I could learn how to actually run lab tests for clients. And so now I'm an integrative health practitioner, so I can run tests around hormones, gut, adrenals, inflammation, in the same way that like a functional dietitian would almost. But it's very different as we're looking at the full person on a 360-degree level instead of just looking at food. And that's where the results start to come really fast because we're really attacking it from multiple different angles.
There's so many women out there right now that are dealing with their clothes not fitting right. They don't feel good, and they're eating less calories, trying to move more, and they're not seeing any results. And so they're just like up against a wall. And then they're probably stressed about it because they're looking in the mirror going, I'm not liking what I see. And so I think so many women are there with you. I personally am heading into menopause and that belly fat's not going anywhere. And there are
Yeah.
probably women listening to this who are either dealing with perimenopause, menopause, or after stages. Those are all very different stages of a woman's life.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some core principles that really carry women through all of these phases, but then there's some special considerations we take for each phase. And what I always tell women is like menopausal symptoms, I don't know, people are very quick to like just label them. They're like, "Oh, it's just perimenopause." And it's like,
Mhm.
obviously perimenopause is real. I'm not saying it's not, but like symptoms are not normal. Symptoms are literally just a sign that your hormones are out of balance because there's something you have too much of and another thing that you don't have enough of. So it's like when your body's balanced, you don't have symptoms. Like the way menopause is supposed to look is you're just supposed to like lose your cycle. Like you just have longer lapsing in between your cycles. When you have symptoms, it's just a sign that there's something off and we get to figure out what it is.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I remember watching Oprah like years ago, and she had all these women on talking about how you should go get your levels checked early when you feel good. So, like what you should have when you get to that, older phase in your life. But is there any would you say that there's any truth in that now? Like, should your levels stay the same from when you're in your 20s to your 30s to your 40s to your 50s, or should they change? And I have no medical background, so I'm talking gobbledygook. But is there any insight into that, like practice of getting your information kind of documented when you feel good so you know why you're not feeling good later in life?
Totally. Getting a benchmark in your 30s is really helpful because, I mean, obviously there is a drop off in estrogen and progesterone, but in theory, there is a natural drop off over time. Like for men, for example, their testosterone kind of slowly declines. For women, like there is a drop off, but it's really important to have that baseline because you can always reach back towards that. It's like, okay, I
Mhm.
can, whether it's through, natural supplementation, reducing stress and cortisol, which affects your women's stress hormones. Like you need that baseline to know like if you've dropped and why. So I always tell women like one of the most powerful things they do is running their functional medicine hormone testing. And this is not through a doctor. One thing that's probably worth mentioning is, you know, Blood tests through a doctor are great. Like, obviously, I encourage women to run them just to look for disease, but we have to remember that blood work looks for disease, it doesn't look for imbalance, so it's not always the most helpful thing to look for when you're just having, when you're feeling tired, when you're feeling low, when you're feeling cravings, like, a doctor is just gonna tell you you're in perimenopause, like, he's not gonna give you solutions. What we do is we say, "Okay, let's look at a saliva sample, not a blood sample, because blood is a homeostatic fluid, it's gonna rob from other parts of the body to keep it balanced." So, like, oftentimes, the blood will show that you are normal, but your symptoms tell you you're not normal, and that's for a reason. It's because the blood is actually showing that you are normal. But the reality is if we look at your saliva testing, you'll have very depleted estrogen or low progesterone or whatever that is, and so we that's where we can tweak and we can really find what is going on with your body and start to reverse it before it gets to the point of, like, total menopausal burnout.
So a saliva test would uncover a lot of those pieces of information for a client. So knowing that, you're working with clients and figuring out what their needs are, what does it look like when you do meet with a client? You do a workup and a baseline, and then you meet maybe every month, or does it depend on the client how you kind of move forward from there?
One of the most powerful things about the way I work with clients is being part of a community. Knowing you're not alone, having accountability, having partners to help you along the process. So I have a full service group program for women who are looking to heal their hormones and create results in their life. And it's not for everyone. Like, there's a lot of women who I turn away because they're probably a better fit to go do GLP or something. Like, that's just, you're not the fit for this. It's for women who really wanna heal, but they also want some big results. So I had one client who lost 19 pounds in 6 weeks, and she was by no means overweight. She was maybe 175 pounds. She's almost down 20 pounds in 6 weeks, and, we she comes in, her and I have a one-on-one container where we go through her protocols. I get her a personalized protocol, but from there on out, it's like she's getting support through me in a group format where we're all learning together, we're growing together, and we have weekly calls. We update their protocols as they go in response to how their result actually is, so we can tweak it, personalize it. And the most powerful thing is they get to learn from women who are 6 steps ahead of them, where they say, "Oh, wow, like, Hannah just had this incredible result." And when that drops into their reality, they're like, "Oh, I don't just have to be like the menopause chick who's having hot flashes." It's like, that girl lost 6 pounds of belly fat in, like, that's possible for me too. And so community is a really powerful element of it. Obviously, I do some VIP one-on-one coaching, but I actually find that women get better results in the group than they do on one-on-one because they're not in isolation, and it's really, really powerful.
We know that people are needing community. We know that we need that human connection more than we ever have before. Because I think part of it is we're going to work all in to and from work. We get home, we barely have enough time to really connect in a community setting because we go to work the next day. And so if we're going to do anything, it's probably evenings and weekends, and who has time for that? And so it's great that you're offering that opportunity for a community connection for women through your program as well.
It doesn't have to take time. Like, so many women are like, "I don't have the time to do it." It doesn't take time, it just takes intention, right? You can't not create space if you're gonna do a health coaching program and, like, truly get results, like, your life does have to shift in some way. You're removing what's not working, and then you add what is, and make a little bit of time for that, but it doesn't require sitting at a desk for an extra 5 hours a week, you know?
Right. I mean, think about how much time we spend on our phone scrolling through stuff on Instagram or whatever. So if we just take that out of our daily schedule and set an intention to meet with a coach or meet with a group and have some time where you're working on yourself, it's probably going to be less time than what we spend on social media anyway.
Exactly.
I know I could be off of social media more in my life and maybe pick up a book.
Girl, tell me about it. I get it.
So besides we're having your so do you get recommendations from different people who have gone through similar practices to, you know, get references for these different coaches?
Recommendations, just my own research as well. I obviously do I have a podcast myself, but I also love listening to podcasts, so I love picking up people's energy to and I can know straight away if I listen to one podcast, I'm like, "This person knows something that my soul needs to hear," and I'll buy from them. But I also do get a lot of recommendations, and at the end of the day, all I'm interested in is results. Like, I'm interested in getting where I wanna go as fast as possible, and I'm willing to pay to get there. So, I just try to find it's I just, like, kinda hacking the system and skipping the line a little bit and just ask for the best possible practitioners.
Okay. So
Ex
if I'm trying to think of anything else that our listeners would want to know about you and what you offer, I'm thinking there are women out there thinking, I like the idea of just losing like 8 to 10 pounds. I just can't get that off my belly or certain parts of my body. I'm not somebody that wants to bulk up and have lots of definition, but I think as I get older, I know that that is something I want to make sure I don't lose my muscle mass. You've got a background in athletics as well. So I'm sure that you have some ideas around strength training.
do. I have a lot of thoughts on strength training. At the end of the day, what makes my program so effective is that we do the order of operations correct. And this is what allows women to actually release the weight, and step 1 is not weight training. That's kind of, like, down the line. Obviously, muscle is a metabolic organ. We have to build muscle in order to make our especially for women in menopause, to make you more insulin sensitive so that your body is not just, like, storing all the glucose that you eat. You have to build muscle, but it's not where I start with women. We really start by replenishing nutrient deficiencies, cleaning up their food, cleaning up their meal timing, nurturing their nervous system, and that's what creates enough safety in their body to actually release weight. So that's why I mean, the average weight loss of what I do with clients is 7 to 10 pounds in the first 2 weeks. And this is we don't do, like, starvation diets or crazy detoxes, like, it's like, we really just focus on creating safety within the body and giving your body more of what it needs and less of what it doesn't, and that includes strategic nutrition choices, but also, like, a system of eating, because if you go and work with someone and they're like, "Well, you can't go out to eat and you can't have any of your favorite foods," you're just like, "Okay, like, that's not gonna work for me." So we have to make it realistic, sustainable, but also be really honest about the parts of your diet that are, like, really derailing you, because some are worse than others, and I'll tell you a couple things right now is looking at things like fried food and added oils, things like canola oils, things like even high volumes of gluten and dairy can just create so much inflammation within a female body, and that doesn't mean you can never have it. Like, my clients are eating gluten and dairy, but if you can just cut that out for just 2 weeks and see how you feel, and then slowly add it back in, that can be super effective. And we also do things like look at food sensitivity testing, because if you are sensitive to a food, your body's gonna retain water, and it's gonna be a lot
Mhm.
slower in the weight loss process because your body's gonna hold on to a lot of inflammation. Testing just allows us to, like, really laser target. So I would say, once they've done this foundational work and they're, like, probably 6 to 8 weeks in, we might add
Mhm.
some weights on the back half of that, but that's really for longevity and health, it's not for weight
Mhm.
loss.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm definitely a sucker for french fries and I like my bar food, but I know I need to stay away from it. So, if I have to have a burger, I'm just not gonna eat the bread and it might be once a month.
Yeah.
I might have burger on a
Yeah.
salad,
That's right,
you
and
know.
there's all sorts of hacks because you shouldn't have to skip your favorite foods. It's more about, like, how often are we having it?
Mhm.
Here's the framework. Like, I literally give my clients a framework. It's like, "Okay, here's your matrix of all the things," and, like, maybe it's 2
Yes.
meals out a week that you're eating whatever you want, and then the rest you're eating these foods over here that actually
Mhm.
allow you to feel and look the way you want to, but you're still giving yourself permission to have your favorite things.
Yeah, because if I'm gonna be restricted, then all I'm gonna do is gain it back anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why
I'm
diet
gonna
plans
overeat.
and beach body and, like, it just doesn't work, like, it's not sustainable,
No.
like, you need to kinda
No.
you need a sustainable system of eating that allows you to enjoy all foods.
Mhm. Right. And what worked in your 20s isn't gonna work in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. Because now that I'm 50, I know I can't eat like I used to because I'm not playing soccer and I'm not doing all these active things anymore, and my metabolism isn't the same. Yeah, we've gotta think differently about food in different parts of our life. Just is what it
Exactly.
is. Yeah, and I'm sure, I don't know if there's any truth to the 7-year if every 7 years our body kinda goes through a change and we become maybe I don't know, I've always kind of felt like every 7 years my body kinda turns over and I'm not as maybe immune to certain things, or I don't like certain things anymore because I kind of get into a pattern rut where all I want is like this particular meal or these maybe 5 meals. And then over time, I realize I can't do those anymore. For example, I did one of those, I just sent off for a box through Amazon and got like an idea of like what foods were causing me inflammation a year ago. And it was interesting because it said that olive oil was something I was having inflammation, but it was probably because I used it in everything. And so I was
Interesting.
having a lot of olive oil. So I switched to grapeseed oil and it seemed to do the trick. So it's just kind of interesting. I think the more you dive into that and actually work with a coach, who can do a full blown baseline, it would probably be really interesting to see what you think is healthy for you may not be so or anymore. I don't know. Yeah.
Think sometimes even healthy foods can be inflammatory to women, which is why like testing is just so effective because there could be things,
Mhm.
and it doesn't mean you have to remove it forever. It just means we
Sure.
remove it for a specific protocol for a specific period of
Mhm.
time, repair your gut, and then add it back in. So I
Mhm.
think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just sensitive to whatever it is here. And then they just remove it
Yeah.
forever. And it's like, it's probably not actually necessary.
Yeah. Right. Just something you have to do in moderation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just don't have enough variety in my diet. I'm one of those people that's just going to eat the same thing every week, like I said. So, yeah, variety is probably a good idea as well for me. So, it's gotten me to think a little bit more about that as well. So, what other pieces of advice would you have for a woman who's feeling exhausted, knows they need to work with a coach, and is kind of interested now listening to this podcast, thinking, okay, maybe it's just what I'm putting into my body and how I'm, scheduling my day? Would there be any other things to think about for a woman going through that right now?
A couple tips. I mean, for women, especially over 40, meal timing is really important. So having regularly scheduled meals, not skipping meals, starting breakfast with like a smoothie. I actually have something
Mhm.
called the Busy Girl Guide to Hormonal Weight Loss, which is a really good starting point. It's just a free ebook. I can send you a link to include in the show notes, but that's where I start
Mhm.
with all my clients. And it's just
Okay.
the exact, very clear protocol to follow to start to heal their blood sugar, start to replenish some nutrient deficiencies, clean up their diet a little bit. And it's those first steps to
Mhm.
start seeing the scale actually move. There's also a weight training regimen in there that they can try. But for most women, I mean, I think it's very easy for women to feel stuck where they're at.
Mm.
But
Mm.
we have to remember that being stuck is a choice. Like, if we're choosing to stay stuck in a body that we're not happy with, what's that really about? Like, what's the
Mhm.
fear on the other side of doing this work? Like, what are we afraid will happen? Are we afraid that we're going to lose all the things that are giving us joy right now, whether it's the wine, whether it's the treats? Are we worried we're not worthy of being in a body that's healthier? We're scared. Like, what is that core fear behind staying stuck? Because every woman has one, and once we can get to the root
Mhm.
of that, we can start to really dissolve some of the resistance to actually making change and actually get these women into the body that they actually want. And what I see
Mhm.
so often, for clients that I work with, it's like they're action takers. Like there's no other option for them. They're ready to do the work, get the result, and that's why they've had 3 babies and they're in a bikini looking
Yeah.
amazing because they just do the
Right.
work and they want the result and they want to have good sex with their husband and they want to get a promotion and they want the flat tummy and they
Yeah.
want to feel and look incredible every day. And so they just do it. And some women are just a little bit scared. And so
Mhm.
we have to figure out what that's really about for them. And so that's something that I talk through clients when I get on a 15-minute call with them. I do 15-minute calls with women who want to see if the hormone reset method is right for them, and it's something we talk about
Mhm.
because it's not
Okay.
for everyone, right? It's really for
Right.
action takers. And so I would say for those women who are actually ready to make real change, that
Mhm.
is a really, really good place to start because it has some super cool hacks.
Thank you for offering that. I can definitely include that in the show notes. I'm sure people will take you up on that. So thank you. I'm thinking that there's probably a few women out there wondering like, should I go with a coaching program like this or should I think about a GLP-1? And so I think it's a good place to start and look at that ebook and think, what might be something that you just haven't thought about that you need to change. Yeah.
Totally. Because what I'll say about GLP is I'm not anti GLP by any means, but I am pro transformation. And what happens with GLP is like, you're not becoming the person. You're not going through a transformation. You're shortcutting a process that's designed to be a transformation. And transformation is attractive. It makes you a better person. And you in the process of choosing to heal over going on a GLP, it's like you're choosing to fix your energy, you're choosing to fix your sleep, you're choosing to feel your feelings and do a lot of things that actually allow your body to feel better, not just look better, and they become better people as a result. So it's just a different type of person who doesn't want the shortcuts. They want deep healing.
And it's a process. It's not something that you can just take a pill for and it happens overnight. You've got to do the work. So we've talked about the body and the physical steps that you can take. We've talked about different types of scheduling and thinking about the food and the time of when you do. Uh, it's also the mental factor. But what would you say is the most important?
My opinion, after working with hundreds of women who have gotten results, is that they have to move together because when you just do the body, when you just say, oh, just food and supplements, that's great. And women do get results. Don't get me wrong. Like we always start with food and that's where they start to see results. But in order to release the weight, but also keep it off and become the person, we have to do body and mind together. And so the mindset behind it, so like what thoughts and beliefs and behaviors are behind the action you're taking are just as important as the action you're taking. If it's from a place of fear, I don't want to get fat. Oh, I'm not good enough. I'm whatever that is for you. You're going to get a very different result. And I even see that in like the energy you're in when you eat your meal determines how that meal is metabolized. And so we have to tackle it from both angles if we want that long-term result.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, there's so much negative self talk. I mean, I've done it. I still find myself doing it sometimes, and I have to say, just stop all that and just be positive. Let's release the negative. Yeah, and I pretty much do that every night before I go to bed, and then do it again in the morning. So it's something we all need to work on, and some of us are better than others on different days, different times of the day. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely something we've got to work on. Positive mindset, positive self talk, and just if it doesn't work in, a particular day or you have a cheat meal, I mean, the next time you eat is the next best time to try again in my mind.
I love that. It's just getting back up. You fall down, you just get back up. We're not staying down here forever. It's just
Every now and then I'm going to have a piece of cheese and it's okay. Because if I don't, then I'm going to want to eat cheese all the time and then I'm just going to overdo it. So,
exactly. Just
yeah.
permission.
Yeah. Permission, obviously in moderation. I mean, those are all things. I mean, it sounds good. It's just putting it into practice. Do you suggest any kind of process for writing it down?
We obviously have tracking mechanisms within my program of how we're measuring success. I think a food journal can be really helpful at the beginning just to understand what's actually going into your body. I don't personally do calorie counting with clients. I don't find it super helpful, but some women, even if they just track it for a couple days, they're like, wait, I'm getting an extra 600 calories of nuts from that, like two handfuls that I'm doing in the afternoon when I'm mindlessly snacking. Documenting can be really helpful. And we also have mechanisms for tracking things like sleep. And, um, I use an Aura Ring. So Aura Ring tells me my sleep scores, what my nervous system is doing, what my cortisol is doing. So I can get really good insights as far as that. But we have a lot of different parameters of tracking.
Yeah, I've never been a calorie counter. I can remember girls in high school used to count the calories on bagels, and I'd be like, I'll take both parts of a bagel and all the cream cheese. Thank you. I mean, that's just everybody's a little different in
Yeah.
thinking about how they're managing what's going into their body. I mean, I don't know about anybody else who's listening, but I used to be somebody who could have a glass of wine and I can't drink alcohol anymore. My body is like, "No, we're done," because I get a headache and my body just doesn't feel good anymore with any kind of alcohol. So, it's just already made that decision for me, no more. But, everybody's going through different, probably dietary changes that they're realizing what they used to like or what they used to enjoy is just no longer a thing for them anymore. And it's not like I have made a decision like I'm not going to drink alcohol. It's just my body has just said, no, it's just not good for you anymore.
She's
So,
done.
yep, yep. I've even tried the non-alcoholic wines and I'm just like, no, just don't. So it's just totally completely cut out of my life. Now it's just sugar. I've got to work on my sugar intake.
Yeah, sugar's a big one. I think, there's some interesting psychological, spiritual elements of sugar as well that we have to work through. I see sugar, not even addiction. Addiction's not the right word, but just sugar dependency for women who are using it as a nervous system management tool, especially women who maybe didn't have a strong relationship with a parent or who are used to operating a certain way because they have deep-seated feelings of worthlessness, and so or even women maybe aren't allowing themselves to feel joy throughout the day, so we really look into kind of what the root cause is behind the sugar. There's always, even if it is a physical there are some very physical reliances on sugar as well. We have, like, nutrient deficiencies, if you don't have enough protein, like, certain things like low magnesium, all that can lead you to reach for chocolate, but there's also underlying spiritual and psychological things that could be fueling that. It's just a hunger for something else, like joy or dopamine or whatever that is, so we really have to get to the root of what that's really about.
That's good. That's good to know. I would hope that my chocolate craving in the evening is just a magnesium deficiency, but I don't know. We'll have to dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Dark chocolate, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Chelsea, this has been a very interesting, insightful conversation. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on that you think the listeners need to hear?
I think if they're interested in going deeper on some of the stuff I shared today, I obviously have a podcast where they can listen to all the things. I give away a lot of free information, a lot of helpful information for women. And so my podcast is called It's Not You, It's Your Hormones on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And then the Busy Girl Guide to Hormonal Weight Loss is an incredible way to just get some tips of things you can action straight away. But, for any woman who's out there who's like feeling a little stuck in analysis paralysis, it's like, what's that just small micro action you can take to move the needle to feel better today? And some of these resources will really help you with that.
I love that. And I'm gonna make sure that I listen in on your podcast as well because I need to listen more about hormones. So thank you for that. And I'm gonna check out your ebook. So I'll make sure I put all that in the show notes. And I know there's gonna be at least a few women out there that are wanting to know more. So they're probably gonna click over as well. So definitely make sure that you look Chelsea's podcast up and like and subscribe and all the things so you don't miss an episode because that's how we get that information out to more and more people. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Kendra. I've really enjoyed it. And thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
If you're in a season that feels full, fast, or overwhelming, I hope that this episode reminds you that slowing down is not falling behind. It's choosing depth. And until next time, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, let your light shine through. Go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.